Hey everybody, Cinephile Mike is here, and it is day 41 of Oscar Rewind, my series of video commentary that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe revisit something you haven't seen in a while. As always, I'll be discussing the recent Oscar connection, awards history for the film, box office information, critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. Before we jump in, please make sure you click that subscribe button. You definitely want to be a part of all the goodness that is coming your way. And today wraps up our series on writers, and I am looking at the Cinema Guild's documentary Hale County This Morning, This Evening. Written by RaMell Ross and Maya Krinsky, the film was released in the fall of 2018 after its premiere at the Sundance Film Festival earlier that year. A critical darling on the awards circuit, the film made a domestic total and worldwide total, no international release, of only $112,282. I reference critical darling because the film boasts a 97% critical rating based on 71 reviews. However interesting, based on over 100 audience reviews, that popcorn bucket is spilled over with a popcorn meter of 40%. Award season-wise, Hale County This Morning, This Evening capped off its award season with a nod for Best Documentary Feature at the Oscars. Some other highlights include 2 nods at the Independent Spirit Awards for Best Documentary and the Truer Than Fiction Award. It had 3 International Documentary Association nods, Best Editing and Best Feature Documentary, and the third was a win for Best Music. It won the Special Jury Prize for Documentary at Sundance, where it was also a Grand Jury Prize nominee, and it was a winner at the Gotham Awards for Best Documentary, and it also was nominated for the Audience Award at the Gotham Awards as well. All of this was in addition to several other nods and wins across the festival circuit. So, we're wrapping up our writer's theme. So, RaMell Ross picked up his second nomination this year for Best Adapted Screenplay for Nickel Boys. That nomination was shared with his co-writer, Joslyn Barnes, who also was a producer on Nickel Boys. So she also shared a Best Documentary nod here with Ross, so we have a couple of different connections Oscar-wise to this year there. So the 2 nods Barnes received for Nickel Boys this year, Screenplay and Best Picture, were her 3rd and 4th nods. Her second was for Hale County, and her first was for the documentary feature Strong Island. And this was the first nomination, Hale County, that Ross received. So let's talk about it. Let's travel to Hale County, located in Alabama's Black Belt. The documentary is about, I'm not saying this as a dig at the film, but it's about everything and sort of nothing all at the same time, but in a good way. Oftentimes with documentaries, we have this, narrative arc. They're not fiction, they're fact, but there's a story to be told. This is not what we're getting here. Ross set out to effectively capture the day-to-day life of the place he called home for several years. For about a decade, he lived there and coached basketball and taught photography. He later went back to document the day-to-day goings for this documentary. It took him 5 years to make it, and in an interview with PBS, he said, and this is also great for the synopsis, so I'm going to quote him, "I talk about the film as a return to home for a northern Black American to the historic South looking through my eyes. I'm encountering the moment in the same way in which you encounter the moment. I'm waiting and watching and participating in hopes that something magnificent would unfold in front of the camera in a beautiful frame." And this is accomplished. Primarily, while we get a glimpse of life in Alabama, we are treated to intimate looks into 2 of the young basketball players on the high school team. One, Daniel, very happy-go-lucky individual. When we first meet him, he's kind of goofily dancing on camera to entertain his friends, and he has plans to graduate, go to college, and play ball. Then the other one is his teammate Quincy, whose key focus for him is raising his family, which he is doing. We meet, his young son Kyrie, who is a ball of energy that's captured in a really adorable moment. He's raising Kyrie with his partner Boozy, who's preparing to give birth again, and she will, to twins Corbin and Cameron. Additionally, we are treated to some content with the other individuals who come in and out of Daniel and Quincy's lives. And in a brief 75 minutes, Ross, he wants to give this slice of life. It's non-linear for the most part. There's no narrative arc. It's just, let's check in. This is what life is like. He really frames the content in a unique way, and he poses different philosophical questions throughout. Some of them being like, what is the orbit of our dreaming? What happens when all of the cotton is picked? Where does time reside? How do we not frame someone? And these questions get touched on as we check in with the subjects and see them experience the highs as well as the lows. There's actually kind of like a third act tragedy that's framed, maybe not intentionally to rip at the heartstrings entirely, but it will. But it's a show of what life is like and some of the things that we encounter. Now, at times, the camera work is a little bit shaky, and that has been some of the hits that the film has taken. And while it does give you the idea that you're just kind of watching an inexperienced person cutting together their home movies, and it is a little jarring at times. I think I even referenced that when I talked about Nickel Boys during award season. Interesting concept, but the cinematography kind of shook me a little bit. But what he does, which is interesting, because most documentarians like to sit outside of the action, but here he's a participant from day one. And, it's interesting because you wonder what kind of information or content he left on the cutting room floor with the things that he wanted to capture. Again, 75 minutes. It's more than a documentary. It's actually more of like a visual poem, showing a love letter to Ross's former hometown. So, look, I kind of go between where the critical response and the audience response for this film is. Hale County This Morning, This Evening. Look, it's honest. It's a 3-star film. It has a unique perspective to be seen. The filmmaking took me out of it a little bit, and I maybe wanted a little bit more of a look at my subjects than what I got, but it didn't take away from my viewing experience. Additionally, I will say, intercut with some of the choppiness, there are some really beautiful shots of that sweeping landscape in Alabama. So look, Ross has proven more than once that he has a solid voice. He's now proved this in documentary and feature films. I'm curious to see what comes next. Clearly, fellow nominee Barnes, she recognizes this. She has repeated collaboration with Ross, so we'll see what's coming next. I'm sure there will be something on the horizon if it hasn't already been announced. And that's it. A short review for a short film. If you would like to watch Hale County This Morning, This Evening, it is currently available for digital rental or purchase on most digital platforms. And with that, we close out the writer series. We've looked at the producers, the performers, the directors, the writers, and now, taking us through the end of August to the end of Double Rewind, we will be looking at the designers. Yes, those amazing set, costume, makeup, sound designers that captivated our senses throughout award season. We're going to look back at their work. As always, if you like what you heard here, please make sure you click that button, subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, and spread the word. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional cinematic goodness on my website, cinephilemike.com, where I hope you are enjoying that exclusive Edinburgh International Film Festival content. All right, happy watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.